Oh god, my glasses are... These are disgusting. That's better. Hello everybody! Hi! Remember me? It's been like 3 weeks since I made a video, and all I can say is that November has been full of sickness for my kids, myself. I got sick twice, and then last night I started feeling like a fever coming on, so I was like, great, I'm gonna be sick again. I woke up feeling better, although I do feel congested with a little bit of a headache, so it's just been a really, really hard month. We've had a lot of stuff going on, so unfortunately, BookTube has kind of fallen by the wayside, but I've been reading. I have been maintaining reading, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what I've been doing in November. Now, I will start by saying that I'm kind of bummed because I don't like to not finish books by the end of the month, because I don't want to have a book half read or quarter read going into a new month, because then I can't really include it in my month's reading because I didn't finish the book. I don't really like to talk about books that I'm only halfway done with, which sucks because that's actual time I've been reading a book, but it's going to seem like I didn't read that much. Anyway, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the book also at the very end that I halfway read, because it's a huge book and I feel like, damn it, it deserves a little bit of recognition, even though it doesn't count as a November read. So anyway, here are the books that I read in November. So of the completed books that I read, I have read 1,865 pages. Yeah, that's right. Most of my books were kind of average. I gave 2 3-stars, a 4-star, a 2-star, and I did give 1 5-star, although it's really 4.75. It wasn't a full-blown 5, but we'll get to that in a minute. So let's see what I read. And also, a good amount of books that I read were borrowed books. They were library books. And as you will have remembered, I did say that I was going to be doing the borrow-a-thon, and that's why I got all these library books. I didn't read that much for the readathon. That was the week of the election, and the couple days following the election, I really didn't have any spirit in me to read at all. Not making this a political video, that's not what I'm about, but I was in pretty poor spirits for a few days, so I didn't want to do any reading. So as far as borrow-a-thon goes, kind of thumbs down, but I did read the books that I got from the library. So anyway, first book is Thanks for the Trouble by Tommy Wallach, and this I gave 3.5 stars to. Now, this book was recommended to me by a good friend of mine, and I really did like it. It's about a kid, teenager, who meets a lady who, like, she's a teenager, but she appears older than she really is. Like, she acts like she's more sophisticated and acts, you know, more knowledgeable about the past, and so sort of figuring out her story. It was a light contemporary read, and I read it pretty quickly. It had a good touch of romance, even some like magical realism involved, and it was pretty short. But I gotta say, you know, I read it just a few weeks ago, and the reason I gave it just so, you know, few stars is because it just kind of didn't really feel that memorable. Like, even now, I'm struggling to remember what the heck the book was actually really about. That's not good. In the moment, I enjoyed it, but now I'm just like, I don't know. Oh yeah, and this was 276 pages. Now, the next book I read is another library book, and it's The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. And this is a 464-page book, but not really, because they didn't have the regular book in the library, and I wanted to read it immediately, so I was forced to buy rent or borrow the large print version for the nearsighted or the elderly. So it's not really a 460-page book, although it is. I read 406 pages. They were pages with really wide margins and large text, but I read it. So this is a really good thrilling revenge novel, full of unreliable characters making really bad decisions. Basically, it's kind of like it starts as like a modern retelling of Strangers on a Train by Hitchcock. 2 strangers meet, and the guy is talking about killing his wife, and the female that he meets says, I can help you with that, and then that's kind of where it goes. It was really fun and fast-paced, with a lot of really good surprises along the way. However, I only gave this a 3.75 out of 5, and it's because even though it was full of really great characters, which were crazy people and like just wild people, which made it really compelling to read. The rest of the book was kind of, it seemed like a run-of-the-mill thriller. Like every other aspect was kind of just sort of basic. The ending had a good little like, haha, it wasn't really a twist, but just sort of like a ha moment. I can't really describe that. So, hi, I'm Shannon and I'll be your reviewer for today. Anyway, I would recommend it for people, especially because it's not really as big as it looks, but you know, but it was a lot of fun and a good thriller, and that's all I gotta say about that. The next book I don't have because I had to return to the library because it was only a 7-day rental. It was The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. That was a 340-page book, and I only gave a 2.75 out of 5 to this one. Now, it was a good standard thriller. It felt very Agatha Christie, so if you've read a lot of Agatha Christie, you kind of know what I mean. I mean, it was a good kind of whodunit. There's only so many characters that are introduced, as you know, Agatha Christie kind of writes, and so one of them has to be the one who done it, and you have to figure out based on the clues that you're given what is the most likely thing that could be going on. There was a lot of good touches of like emails and newspaper clippings, which sometimes I like and sometimes I don't like. I really liked the touches of that in this book. And the book had me going. I was like, the whole time I'm like, okay, this is pretty okay, this is pretty good. But I don't know. Come the ending, it all just sort of fell apart for me. Yeah. Ultimately, it was too long. There were too many characters, too many like interview scenes. Well, what happened this night? What do you recall? What were you on this evening? Like too many of those sequences, and the ending was too convenient and just too unbelievable for me. I just, by the end of it, I was like, okay, let's just go. Let's finish this thing. Let's finish this. I wasn't invested. I wasn't surprised. I wasn't shocked. Actually, when the twist came, I was like, are you freaking joking? Are you joking? This is bogus. And I was really disappointed. So sorry, it couldn't even break a 3-star rating for me. Sorry, Ruth Ware. Your book got so much hype and I was expecting great things and it just didn't really deliver. The next book I read was The Rose and the Dagger by Renee Audier. This was 416 pages, and I gave it a 2.5 out of 5, which was disappointing to me because if you remember 2 or 3 months ago, I read The Wrath and the Dawn and I loved it. And basically, for all the reasons that I love Wrath and the Dawn, I didn't love for this book. Because The Wrath and the Dawn it had that romance kind of feel to it. It was just about love and romance and defying the odds. And like, I'm not really a romance reader, but in that month, I wanted to read that kind of book, and it totally delivered. So there was like almost none of that here. It was all just the genre, I think, for me. It completely went into like fantasy and like battles and magic and just totally genres that I don't read, so I couldn't get myself into it. And there was way too much going on, way too many people, even though most of them were characters from the first book. And ultimately for me, it was just kind of flat and disappointing. And I was kind of sad because I really wanted to, like, I could have totally not read this, honestly. I really could have just read the first one and been happy with it. So I'm sorry. This is why I don't read series, because I always get let down in one of the books at least. So, sorry. I like the first one. The second one, I really could have done without. Okay, it feels like for me a trend in all the months that I read. Near the end of the month, I read the best book. So the best book for me this month was the last book that I read, which was I Let You Go by Claire McIntosh. This was a 369-page book, and I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. I almost gave it 5, but I'll tell you about that in a second. This is a book that I cannot talk too much about. And if you read a lot of thrillers or mysteries or what have you, you'll know why. Because something major in the plot happens that if I tell you about, obviously, well, there's no point of reading it. So it is about a mother whose 5-year-old son runs out from her, like, let's go over hand, and runs into the street, gets hit by a car and dies. And her grief and trying to process and struggle with her son dying, that's all that I can tell you. All I will say is this book was recommended to me by Kayla, and she told me, it is a crazy twist, you'll never see it coming. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. I've read enough thrillers to see almost any twist, right? So, but I will say, it was I was so not ready for like the twist. The twist comes around halfway. So that's another thing. Like the twist usually in the book comes at the very end. That's when the payoff is. The twist came in the middle of the book. And oh my God, was not prepared for it. It was mind-bending. I was like, I got to it at like 1 in the morning and I had to keep going, I read until like 2 o'clock. It was crazy. I will say, however, the third act ruined it for me. It was a 5-star book all the way up until the last third. And at that time of the book, it got to be too much, too over the top, heavy-handed by the author, and it had this weird, potentially vague ending, depending how you read it. That kind of turned me off a little bit, but up until the very, very end, it was a 5-star read. I wish the ending was a little bit different. But as far as like the construction of the novel and the twist and like the formulation of the book and how it screws with your brain in a way that you're not prepared for, that whole section, if that was by itself, this would be easily a 5-star book. So I haven't heard much about this. Read this book. Even with the ending kind of a little questionable, it's really good. Okay, I'm cheating here. I'm sorry. You're gonna see me talk more about this book next month because I'm not finished with it yet. But I would have read a lot more, but I've been trying to work through this Honker, 11/22/63 by Stephen King. This is an 849-page book. It's huge. I'm like, but this far in. So I'm like a little more than halfway, and that whole section took me like a week to read. So I'm not going to talk about the book or what I think about it, really, because I'm going to save that for next month. But, I read 800, let me see. Pull up my notes 1 second. So, I read 1,865 pages. Honestly, tack 400 pages onto that, because that's kind of really what I read in November. I'm sorry, that's totally cheating. Anyway, this you'll hear a lot more about in my December update. So without cheating, this is really what I read in the month of November, and all my library books, see, they literally are all library books. And because I had to wait to make this video, they're all overdue. So, you're welcome, YouTube. You're welcome. I've got to go pay probably like $2 or $3. I don't know. Wow, right? Use your library. The library is amazing. And it can take, don't not pay your fines either. Pay your fines, because your library needs that money, right? So I'm going to go return my book, pay my fines, womp womp, and then start for my December reads. Holy moly, guys, December? Really? It's really December? That's crazy. Anyway, I will hopefully be making videos a lot more frequently than 3 weeks apart. Yeah, although I can't promise. This month has my husband's birthday, my mother-in-law's birthday, my mom's birthday, and Christmas, of course. So a lot's going on, and I don't know what I'm going to be doing as far as video making goes. I will be making a video that encompasses my entire year's worth of reading. I haven't even started that. That's probably not a good thing. If there's anything else you want to see from me, let me know down below. I'd be happy to oblige. And I gotta go. I'll see you guys later. Bye.